Some of these people were willing to camp out here for days.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Says its new Switch 2 console has become the fastest-selling of all time.
Games finally goes on sale.
Preparing to rewrite retail history.
Video game is expected to have bigger first-day revenues than any movie has ever had an opening day at the box.
Oh my God.
Brand loyalty. When I say those words, what comes to your mind? A lot of gamers will instantly go to either Nintendo or even the console wars between Xbox and PlayStation. Now let's figure out if brand loyalty is good or bad for you. Now let's start with the definition of brand loyalty. Brand loyalty basically is in the name. You're loyal to a brand. Or in like the technical terms, it is a consumer that usually buys one particular brand over the competitors. For example, someone will buy Xbox over PlayStation, or they'll buy Nintendo over the rest, or you'll choose Steam over any other like gaming platform. Now that I gave you guys the definition and a couple examples of what brand loyalty looks like, let's dive deeper and let's look at probably the number one brand of all time in the gaming sphere alone. And we already know who it is, big O Nintendo.
Super Mama!
Now, most people watching this video will agree with me 100% that Nintendo has probably the most loyal fans ever. I mean, for example, the Switch 2 becoming the best-selling console of all time, selling 3.5 million units in the first 20 to 48 hours is insane. At least to me, because I don't really see a big difference between the Switch 1 or the Switch 2. The home screen looks the exact same. The layout is the exact same. The only difference is maybe minor details and better specs. But does it really warrant to be selling out that fast?
No.
In my opinion, no. In my opinion, I'll probably wait until it goes on sale or just not buy it at all. But that brand loyalty comes in. We have 3.5 million huge Nintendo fans that bought it day one because they needed their hands on it. Now that is one of the biggest examples of brand loyalty I've ever seen. Now let's look at why Nintendo has such loyal fans and how they have grown to be the titan that they are today. Now speaking in terms of Nintendo, I think of them as three main pillars what makes them so popular and so dominant in the gaming industry and why they have fans that will come out and buy whatever the hell they sell.
Here we go again.
Number one is nostalgia.
Wow.
We'll talk about that in a sec, but nostalgia is a huge competitor of why people like Nintendo over alternate brands. Two is accessibility. Almost anybody can play a Nintendo game. Children, adults, elderly, anybody can play a Nintendo game because they're just generally easy to understand and easy to play. Thirdly is IP recognition, and what I mean by that is no matter what Nintendo comes out with, they're always going to drop their main IPs. Pokemon, Mario Kart, Zelda, like they're games that blew them up in the 80s and 90s that we still see new games getting released today. Now that I set the three main reasons why Nintendo has such loyal fans, let's go back to the first one, nostalgia. We all know somebody that has some sort of connection to Nintendo. Either it's the guy that played the very first Pokemon games when they first came out, or the very first Zelda game, or even playing like the Wii when they're younger, or some sort of Nintendo IP that connects them to the brand that makes them like it a lot. Now for me personally, my first experience was, like some random Jurassic Park game on the Nintendo 64. It never really made me like a huge Nintendo fan because at the time I didn't really know what the console was. I was just playing the game because it was fun. But my first like real experience of like Nintendo as a brand was the Wii. The Wii was revolutionary. Everyone knows that the Wii was probably one of the greatest consoles of all time. And I grew up playing the Wii Sports, but still, that wasn't enough for me to become a hardcore Nintendo fan. And I still am not a Nintendo fan to this day, but that's besides the point. We have people that grew up playing these games that will play them to this day. Like I know a couple people that are in like their 30s, their 40s that still play Nintendo to this day just because they released the newest Pokemon, the newest Mario. It doesn't matter. It's because they're connected to that from when they played as a kid. And nostalgia is huge in the gaming space, especially for Nintendo. Nintendo's been around since dang near the 70s, man. They've been around for a long, long time. They have 3 to 4 generations of people that have grown up playing their games. So that's why their IP is going to be hard to take down. If your goal was to like take down Nintendo, is you have to go for nostalgia. Because nostalgia plays such a key role in why people in the Switch 2 have sold out so quickly. Let's go ahead and look at our second reason why Nintendo is so big, is accessibility and the ease of play. Now let's be honest here. No one looks at Nintendo and says, wow, these games are super difficult. They're almost on par of like the difficulty of Elden Ring and Dark Souls, you know? No, not at all. Almost anybody can beat any Nintendo game. They're really not that difficult. And that's the reason why people are so loyal to their brands, because there's no difficulty. It's mainly for fun and enjoy and for fun and joy. Now, staying on topic of the fun and joy part of Nintendo, one of the big reasons why Nintendo stays popular and stays enjoyable with their games is the fact that they never abandon co-op. PlayStation, Xbox, especially PC, all the major consoles that aren't Nintendo have mostly abandoned the co-op gameplay. That is one thing I do like about Nintendo a lot, is that they haven't abandoned co-op style games. A lot of their games you could hop on and you could plug in one Joy-Con and then another Joy-Con, and you and your buddy could sit on the couch and play Mario Kart for hours, you know, because it's a co-op game. Like, yeah, like you might require like an internet connection now, because everything does. I don't know why people still complain about this to this day. It's just how life is now. Does that mean you have to play online the whole time? No. That means you and your friend can hop in a local lobby, just you and him, and race over and over again. And that's a reason why Nintendo is so big, is co-op has been some of their main focus for a lot of their games. And I know that they have their single players that are some of their biggest IPs, like Mario and Zelda and their new Donkey Kong coming out. You know, these games are huge, and people like that for that reason too. And that also comes into the fact that their single player experiences aren't complicated to figure out, the accessibility part. So if your buddies are busy or you don't really have a lot of friends, you still have the Nintendo games where you could play, and it's not a challenge, you know. It's not a second job to beat a level, you know. It's basically, okay, let me play for a couple hours, let me progress through Zelda, and then when I get tired, I'll go to bed and turn it off, you know. That's very accessible for a lot of people, and this is why they're such a major player in the gaming sphere. Is they focus on so many different things that people are attached to. The nostalgia part, people are attached to that. Co-op gameplay. A lot of people in my generation and older generations grew up with that co-op style gameplay. The easeability of playing their games, you know, they're not difficult, and just all around, just accessibility for everything. And last, in our third pillar, is probably their most important behind nostalgia, is their IPs. They never stray too far away from their IPs. Yeah, you could probably get other games on Nintendo, like the eStore, and yeah, you could probably play other games if you want, but you're getting Nintendo to play Mario, to play Zelda, to play Mario Kart, you know, to play their games that everyone has grown up and played with. And this is a huge reasons why they have such loyal fans, is that when you play a Zelda game, yeah, the graphics are better, the maps are bigger, you know, maybe there's probably new gameplay aspects, but for the most part, their games are very, very, very similar to how they were 30, 40, 20 years ago. They haven't changed much. And that's exactly why people stay so loyal to their brand. And Pokemon is the biggest critic of this. Pokemon has not changed.
What the hell is even that?
From their very, very first release. At least, like, if you look at like Mario or Zelda or like Donkey Kong, yes, their games are pretty much the exact same as how they were, but they do some things. They change some things. Like Zelda is probably the biggest one that has changed the most. Zelda has bigger dungeons, more gameplay, new game features, Mario is pretty similar, but new power-ups, new everything. And a lot of these games, they do change with the times, not exactly with the times, I should say, because Nintendo is still fucking like 30 years behind every other game developer in the industry. But Pokemon is the biggest critic of this, where they have not changed at all. I don't care how many people are going to come in the comments and flame me for saying that Pokemon has changed so much you just don't realize. Tell me how. Tell me how it hasn't changed from me walking on routes, walking in front of like a random person, getting into a random duel, fighting them, winning, getting my XP, maybe some like gold, walk along my path some more. And then the only thing that a Pokemon game has changed is either better graphics, maybe a bigger map, and new Pokemon. I'm gonna die on that hill for the rest of my life that Pokemon is pretty much the same game every single year. It's just like the 2K and the Madden phenomenon. People make fun of 2K and Madden about the same thing. It's the same game over and over again. It never changes. That's how exactly how Pokemon is. It's the same game over and over again. It never changes, and it never will. Pokemon fans are kind of getting annoyed, and this is probably another thing that's going to bite Nintendo in the ass if they don't start changing some things around, and might make fans not as loyal. Is that these IPs that these fans love, are starting to get a little stale, are starting to get a little repetitive. Now Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, some of their big hitters, their releases are more spread out and they do change. So those IPs I'm not too worried about. But Pokemon, I can see that this is starting to fade a little bit. People aren't as excited about a Pokemon release how it was like 5-10 years ago. Because people realize, oh, okay, it's the same game. The Pokemon fans are going to buy it. But as an average person like me and you, we're probably not going to buy it. Or maybe wait until it goes on sale. And we know how Nintendo is with their sales. It's probably going to be like $5-10 off. But it's better than paying $80. See how Pokemon unfolds over time. But these are 3 big reasons why Nintendo has such loyal fans and how they're probably not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Now that I've talked about Nintendo and how Nintendo has stayed on top for so long, let's kind of stray away and let's talk about another brand loyal thing that people love. And it's not as prevalent as it used to be, but you know what I'm about to say. Console wars. Yep, you heard me. Console wars. We all know about the console wars. And to this day, we still have a little bit of a console war online about Xbox and PlayStation. If you go on like a PlayStation-focused YouTube channel where they cover like PlayStation exclusives and upcoming games and PlayStation news and drama, you're gonna have a couple Xbox hardcore fans in there that are like, PlayStation sucks, their exclusives are garbage, and then vice versa. You're gonna have a lot of PlayStation people coming over to Xbox channels and being like, oh, Xbox, you guys have been irrelevant for the last 10 years. We've all seen those comments. And for me, myself, I am a loyal Xbox guy. The fuck? As you can't tell, you can probably tell with the Master Chief, I only play on Xbox. I have a lot of Xbox accessories. I am a hardcore Xbox fan. But I've never been a guy where I never been that hardcore where I go on channels and I'll say, PlayStation sucks. It's more of like a friendly thing. Like, I have some homies at work that are PlayStation fans, and I have some homies at work that are Xbox fans. And we'll kind of, when we're working and crap, we'll make fun of each other like, oh, you like PlayStation, ha ha ha. And like, we'll make fun of each other at work. It's more of like a friendly thing for me. But I would say I am like a brand loyal guy to Xbox. Same with the guys on my work. A lot of them are brand loyal PlayStation players. But we never take it as serious. But we all know how serious the console wars has gotten in previous years. Like straight up Reddit wars and like Discord conversations and just huge debates about which console is better and which exclusives are better, and how PlayStation peaked at PlayStation 2 and the 3 and 4 have been mid, or like PlayStation 5 was mid, but the PlayStation 4 was actually a good generation, or how the Xbox 360 was good and like the Xbox One wasn't, and the Xbox Series X is just kind of like a console, just the same thing as an Xbox One. It's not much different. We've all seen those conversations, but this is a good example of how brand loyalty brings people together but also divides. And that's why I kind of want to talk about that is, does brand loyalty divide people or does it bring people together? Now let's look at that for a sec. Now you could look at it as a total, bummer and say, yeah, it just it's just division, man. It just divides us all. Like, the console wars is a good example of why it divides us all and how people shouldn't be loyal to a brand at all. I would kind of agree, but at the same time, I don't. Because I think brand loyalty is good at bringing people together. Like I said, me and my friends make fun of each other all the time about playing on Xbox or PlayStation. But it still brings us together where we can play games, like the cross-platform games. And at that point, it doesn't matter what console you're playing on, as long as we're playing together and having fun. The console wars brought a lot of gamers together in a way they didn't understand. A lot of people probably met some of their good online friends through these console war. You know, like maybe they were like on a Reddit thread, just going back and forth with the PlayStation dude, on and on and on. But then over time, that conversation transfers into like, oh, you're kind of cool, man. Like I see what you're coming from. And eventually it leads to them playing Fortnite. And then now like they're good friends and they hop on all the time. This isn't like a rare unicorn moment. This happens all the time. This happens even just in competitive games. We've all been in a lobby, especially like Call of Duty, Rocket League, you know, competitive games where you're playing and some guy sends you a message, L ratio, you guys suck. Get better at the game. Get off the game. So then you're not going to sit down like a dog and just take it. So you're going to send a message back. Eventually, a party invite gets sent. Then you join the party, and then you go into a party. You guys are all screaming at each other, just saying crazy crap in the party because you want to let the other guy know that you're better than them. But eventually, in most cases, that party will simmer down, and everyone in that party is actually cool. And you guys almost forget that you guys were just beefing over a competitive game just like 5 minutes ago. This has happened to me a handful of times, and I guarantee a lot of gamers this has happened to a handful of times, where you hate this person in the moment. You just want to show them how bad they are at the game, and then eventually it devolves to, okay, this guy's actually kind of cool. I'll play some more Call of Duty with the guy in the future, even if he is kind of garbage. Console Wars is a big example of this. How a lot of people have even started whole YouTube channels over this devotion to a console, a brand. Now, before I stray too far away from like Xbox and PlayStation, let's talk about that for a sec. The console wars was one thing. We've all been, you know, let's say for me, example, I'm an Xbox guy. I like Xbox, and there's not a lot of things that will get me away from Xbox. And let's talk about the elephant in the room, the recent 9,000 people that were fired from Xbox studios by Xbox. Now, is that enough to drive me away and not make me ever want to play Xbox again? It sounds cruel. It really does sound cruel. It sounds terrible, and it probably makes me sound like a bad person, but not really. Yeah, does it make me upset? Yeah. Does it make me a little mad? Of course. But is it enough to make me be like, oh, I'm never playing this console again? Not really. You might be ready to type a comment right now saying, wow, what a terrible human being, dude. Our society is so fucked, you know. But take a look at yourself in the mirror real quick. Every single person that is loyal to like a particular brand, PlayStation, Nintendo, every single one of these brands have done something horrible, terrible, but yet you still play on PlayStation, yet you still play Nintendo. And if you don't believe me, let's take Nintendo for example. Nintendo is notorious for suing anybody that uses like Pokemon IP, Mario IP, any IP that's theirs. If you use it in any way without their legal consent, they're suing you for it. We have countless examples of like YouTubers back in the day getting sued by Nintendo for playing Mario, or like a kid making like a blanket and then like it has like Pikachu on it, and like Nintendo tries to get the rights of that blanket and crap. Like, but is that stopping Nintendo fans from buying the newest Mario Kart game? No. Same with PlayStation. PlayStation ain't no saint. We all know that they laid off a huge amount of people back in like 2021, 2020, you know. And does that make people stop playing PlayStation? No. For a lot of people that are loyal to brands, a brand has to do something really, really horrendously bad, like super, super bad for people to actually like go away. Now, there is people that will be like, okay, I'm tired of Xbox laying off all these people. I'm gone. I'm never playing a PlayStation ever again. I'm going to switch to PlayStation. And they might stick on PlayStation from here on out. And that's fine. That's okay. But for most gamers, it doesn't really affect them that much. It just makes you sad. We kind of got the consoles kind of wrapped up in a nice little bow of console wars, the loyalty to Nintendo, and all their IPs. But let's look at some brands. You know, some brands that people are very, very loyal to, that isn't really a shocker. For starters, FromSoft probably has some of the most loyal but also kind of toxic fan base I've ever seen in my life. I'm a FromSoft guy myself. I love FromSoft games. I love, Dark Souls, Elden Ring. I love those games. As an example, how no matter what they release, their games are going to do good. Now, Night Rain didn't do as good because people were skeptical from the beginning because it's not a traditional, FromSoft game. But when Elden Ring 2 comes out, whatever IP they come out with next, people are going to flock and buy it because of the brand alone. They built up a reputation, and they uphold that reputation for this long that their brands are like, no brainer, I'm going to buy Elden Ring 2. It also brings back to how it builds communities. FromSoft has some of the most devoted communities I've ever seen. I've been in some Reddit threads and Discords of people that are hardcore, Elden Ring, Dark Souls fans, and they'll just talk for hours on end about their favorite weapons or their favorite character builds, or their favorite bosses, and they debate on who's the hardest boss to be and who's the easiest boss and which one's the easiest game. And there's whole YouTube channels and all this crap all around just this one brand alone. And that is a huge example of brand loyalty. We have people that dedicated their lives basically to cover FromSoft games, do challenge runs, speed runs, build builds for people and all this other things. And the community aspect of brand loyalty is actually huge. And I think it's a good thing about being loyal to a brand is the community aspect alone. The aspect of building a community around a brand might sound crazy to someone that isn't really loyal to a brand. They just kind of whatever, they play whatever, they didn't really like a particular brand. But those people, they're lying to themselves because they do like a particular brand. They just don't realize it. I bet there's a lot of people watching this video right now that say, nah, I'm not really a huge brand loyal guy. I kind of just like whatever. But when they look at themselves in the mirror, they realize they're wearing a Nike shirt, Nike shorts, and Nike shoes. If that's not brand loyalty, then I don't know what is. And I could go on and on about game developers that are huge in the gaming space that have loyal fans. And I'll list off a couple. Rockstar, for example, they've been huge players in the gaming space for a long time. FromSoft, even Ubisoft. Ubisoft has fallen off over the years, but they do have their loyal fans, people that love their games. It doesn't matter what they release, they're going to play them. Big ones, the huge ones, Fortnite, Call of Duty. These two brands alone take up a huge chunk of the player. These two names alone, Fortnite and Call of Duty, are huge players in the gaming sphere. And they have devout, loyal players, basically. And I'm not much of a fan of either, but I see why. I have played a good amount of Fortnite. I have played a good amount of Call of Duty. And I see why people come back every single year to buy the games. Same with 2K, same with Madden. I have a couple friends that are old hockey players. Every single year they buy the new NHL. And I ask them, why? I don't see the reason. I don't see why you would want to buy the same game over and over and over again. And they justify it by saying, "Oh, they changed the game. It's better, updated rosters, better, better everything. Everything's better." I don't see how it is better. But that's another example of why. If you have a connection to something outside of gaming, like hockey, football, baseball, basketball, then 9 times out of 10, you're gonna want to play Madden because it brings you back to those memories of when you were playing high school ball or college ball, or even some professional athletes, retired NFL players. A lot of them play these Madden games or even work with Madden to update the games, make them better. And most recently with rappers and famous actors and athletes are coming out and they're starting YouTube channels to make revenue after off their name and after their time in the league or whatever. And a lot of the times you'll see a ex-NFL player streaming Madden, or we'll see a rapper playing NBA. Something we haven't seen before until recent years. These athletes that have such a hard connection to the actual sport itself transfers over to their brand loyalty to football. It's not necessarily to EA or to Madden, but their loyalty to football outweighs the fact that the games are the exact same every single year. So brand loyalty isn't just
oh, I sit in my cave and I type in my computer and I play World of Warcraft for the last 45 years.
No. Brand loyalty is everywhere around you. Almost every single person you know is loyal to some kind of brand in some kind of way. All can trickle back to whatever they did when they were younger. And that's why nostalgia is such a big use of brand loyalty. That's exactly why game developers will release the same game, 10 years, 2 years later, like Last of Us. They've released Last of Us 40 times already. Same with Skyrim. They've released Skyrim 40 times already. Now I can't say that I'm not a victim of the Skyrim releases, because I am, because I played the original when it first came out when I was a kid, and it blew my mind. It was my very, very first RPG ever. I might have played a little bit of here and there on my brother's save file, and he used to come in the room and beat the fuck out of me because I ruined his save file, on Oblivion or whatever. But Skyrim was my very, very first RPG experience by myself in my room as a little kid in elementary school, playing it for the very first time. And yes, when it came out with the gold edition or whatever, when it came out a few years later, with all the creations with it and the mod and the modding tools and all the DLCs included, of course I bought it, because young me, baby me, couldn't buy the DLCs to the Skyrim. And at the time, I didn't really know Skyrim even had DLCs until I bought the definitive edition. Another reason why brand loyalty is so huge is connected to me when I was a kid, and I'm gonna buy it when I'm older. Now, that doesn't happen for me every single time. When they released the Battlefront 1 and 2 bundle, the originals, I did not really care that much, Yeah, I have a connection to Star Wars, and I did play the original Battlefronts 1 and 2 with my brothers when I was younger. But, that was just that's something I want to keep in my heart for me and my brothers to laugh about, but not something I want to pay for and play now. Come on. We all saw when it released, it did numbers. It got hold of the brand loyal Star Wars guys, and it also got hold of the brand loyal Battlefront guys. All came together, and they were like, holy crap, they're re-releasing the two same games that came out 10 years ago. We gotta go play these. So they go play them and then realize it was an absolute dumpster fire. But that loyalty to Star Wars is what driven those sales, and the nostalgia too. And I know in this video I talked about a lot of gaming related stuff because I am a gaming YouTube channel. So it makes sense that I kind of connect most of this brand loyalty crap to gaming. Brand loyalty is in everything that we do. For example, I like Target over Walmart and Fry's or Fred Meyer's or wherever you live, it could be Fry's or Fred Meyer's, but I like Target over the other two. And you could say I'm a loyal fan. You could say I'm loyal to the brand Target, and I am. I choose to go to Target over any other competitor. The reason why is I feel like Target's a lot more cleaner and a lot more of a vibe, and Target's one of the only stores I could get a bucket of popcorn and a fountain drink and scroll around and look at Lego sets for a couple hours, It's a total world in there. Those memes that came out a few years ago about your girl wants to go on Target for 5 minutes but is in there for 3 hours, it makes sense. Me and my girl will be in Target for way longer than we need to be, looking at Lego sets or the gaming section. It's a whole vibe in there, and that's exactly why I go to Target over and over again. And brand loyalty is exactly that. I'm loyal to the Target brand. And brand loyalty just spans to almost everything. Almost every person on this planet is loyal to some kind of brand. It could go from clothing, like Supreme, for example, Supreme hat, Supreme shirt, Supreme has loyal fans. Ford has loyal fans. Every single thing in this world has loyal fans besides minute stuff. But even then, minute stuff have loyal fans. I know people that only get Sherman Ultra Soft because they like it better than the alternate brands. People will get certain toothpaste because they like toothpaste better. Every aspect of every person's life has some sort of brand loyalty attached to it. And that's why when people say, no, I'm not really loyal to a brand, they are in some kind of way. They just don't realize it until they really look at it in a 3D perspective. Oh yeah, I've always driven Ford my whole life. Okay, I guess I might be a Ford, a brand loyalty guy to Ford. Subaru, every single brand on this planet has some sort of fan base attached to it that people will always buy their brands because they think it's better than the competitors. This is normal. It's not something crazy. I hate how people make brand loyalty feel like it's some crazy thing, like you're some psychopath that likes Xbox more than PlayStation, or likes Sherman over the competitors, or again Hyundai over Honda. You know, like people make it seem like you're crazy and insane for being a guy that just likes what you like, but it's not crazy. Everyone does it, down to the apps you use. Literally, people are brand loyal to Spotify. Every single person will say, no, I'm not a brand loyal guy, dude, but they only use Spotify. That's brand loyalty right there. That's literally brand loyalty right there. Brand loyalty goes down to the smallest of details, down to the shoes you wear, the shirts and pants you wear, the car you drive, the console you play on, the TV you use, the plates and dishware you use, the particular brands you buy of food. Every single thing you buy has some part of a brand loyalty attached to it. Now let's look at the bad and good of brand loyalty to really determine if it's a good thing or a bad thing that we have brand loyalty in almost everything we do. Let's take Nintendo for example. The Nintendo Switch 2 becoming the best-selling console of all time. Now is that a good thing or a bad thing? Now I would say it might be a bad thing. Now hear me out. The reason I say that is because in this economy we live in, these people that are going out in droves to buy the Nintendo Switch 2, is it really wise for people that are so devoted to Nintendo to be spending damn near $500 to buy a new console right now?
A lot of damage.
Now, if they have the money to do it, then whatever. But some of these people don't have the money to do it. But they're so excited to buy it that their brand loyalty gets in their head and they completely ignore all functionality and all thought, and they go and buy it anyway because they can't stop themselves from wanting to buy that console day one. I think that could be a bad thing. People going in debt to buy this console. You know, same with like Pokemon cards right now. Pokemon cards are going crazy. People are probably losing their jobs right now trying to buy some of the best Pokemon cards so they could potentially resell them. That is a big component of brand loyalty. Another thing that could be considered bad, when your brand that you really like does something bad, and you kind of start to feel bad of why am I loyal to this brand when they do bad things all the time. That could be considered bad, and sometimes it is. Sometimes a brand could do some horrendous stuff like Amazon. A lot of people are devoted to Amazon, but Amazon is probably one of the shadiest, most corrupt companies in the world. But yet people still choose to use Amazon for almost everything now. Like I know some people that strictly get everything they need from Amazon, but besides food, even though they probably could get food from Amazon, they get mostly all their items from Amazon. Even though Amazon still does slave labor and does cheap labor and tracks their employees, how long they go to the bathroom, and they only have set amount of bathroom breaks a day, and like all this crazy crap. Yes, it could be bad that as a consumer you're supporting that bad behavior. That also comes into the good, and we'll talk about that later. And another thing that can be bad about brand loyalty, ignoring the good of other brands. I'm not gonna lie, I do this with PlayStation. Yes, PlayStation has some good exclusives, and I've had the times where I've thought about buying it. That little Xbox demon in my head says, nope, you're never gonna buy a PlayStation, don't do it. And I always think to myself, am I missing out of what I could be playing on PlayStation? And probably yes, but it doesn't bug me that much. It really doesn't bug me that much. That is kind of a bad thing, is because you can miss out on some good things on the other side of the aisle, you know, because you particularly only choose one brand. So missing out is I would say another bad thing about brand loyalty. I could probably list off some more bad things here and there, like more minute things that could kind of ruin somebody and whatever. But let's talk about the good. I mentioned it earlier, but a really, really good thing about brand loyalty is the community. Another brand that I really like and I'm kind of loyal to is Subaru. I'm a huge Subaru guy, yes. Put the memes on right now. Subaru, I'm a huge Subaru guy. I own my own WRX, and when I get more parts in, I'm gonna make a video about like adding those parts on and kind of keep you guys updated on my journey of modding up my car and stuff. But every year I go to Subi Fest because it's just a good time to walk around and just talk to other Subaru guys that are probably share the same passion as me. Is, you know, I like these cars. These cars are freaking sick, man, and they're so easy to work on. And there's so much aftermarket parts to these cars that the community itself is so, alive and vibrant when you go to these events. And I think that's a good thing about brand loyalty is that they build communities so strong. People will stick together through thick and thin because they like this brand so much, and other people around them like this brand so much that they want to see this brand succeed. And right now in the gaming landscape, that's kind of how Xbox is. A lot of Xbox fans hoping that Xbox releases like a banger that comes out swinging. I know they have like Hi-Fi Rush and Expedition 33 and like all these games that came out that have been big successes for Xbox. It makes an Xbox guy happy, but a lot of Xbox fans are worried right now. They don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know what's going to happen to the Xbox brand in the next 10 years. So it strengthens that community bond between these Xbox people of, okay, let's have as much fun as we can before this brand goes under. Same with PlayStation. I've watched tons of PlayStation videos of people talking about like the edits they make on like Spider-Man and like how they can make it better and all this crap. And the community aspect of these brand loyal people is really, really strong and cool. And another good thing, and I guess it could also be a bad thing too, but I think it's more of a good thing, is it's something you could attach yourself to. And especially for us Gen Z people that we're a lot younger and we're still figuring shit out, we're still trying to navigate through life and figure out this whole life shit. And it really helps to like kind of attach yourself to something you like. I think it's unhealthy to make it your whole personality. I'm not walking around being like,
Oh, you play PlayStation? Never talk to me again, nerd. You geek. Never talk to me again. I'm an Xbox guy all alone. Don't talk to me.
But I think it's, if you're not like super, super deep into like a certain brand, but you like it enough to be loyal to it, I think it's good to attach yourself to it a little bit. Be like, yeah, man, I play on Xbox, and like you say that like in a, like you meet someone at a party and you say, yeah, dude, I really like Xbox. I've been playing it since the Xbox 360, and that guy's a PlayStation guy. You might chop the shit up a little bit. You might throw some jabs back and forth, but you're probably gonna make a homie by the end of the night. You and that guy are probably gonna vibe and talk about games and future games coming up, and it helps, especially younger people, to like meet new people in the real world. Like I'm not talking online. Like I mean in the real world, to kind of attach yourself to a brand that you really like, because it's a good opener for some shit. Oh, I see that you have a Mario shirt on. You must like Nintendo. Oh, I do. Boom, right there. Now you and that guy could probably chop it up for like 30, 40, maybe an hour, maybe even longer. And before you guys leave, you might be swapping out gamer tags, so you might have a future to play some games in the future. So I think that's a good reason of brand loyalty, is it really builds like connection between people, no matter if it's the same brand or not. And lastly, for the good, and like I said, same thing for bad. I could go down to like some of the smallest details and all this other crap. I think this is a really big one, is the sense of accomplishment once you get something you want from a particular brand. And what I mean, for example, is like for a lot of people that work 9 to 5 and they really, really like, let's say, Ford. For the last like 4 or 5 years, they've been saving up to get a Mustang. That's all they've wanted. It's their dream car. They've always wanted a Mustang. They have like a vision in their head of how they want to mod it, and they finally save up enough money to buy a Mustang outright. As soon as they put that payment down and they get that car off the lot, or even off like Facebook Marketplace or whatever they buy it from, there's not a lot of things in this world that will replace that sense of accomplishment. That like, holy crap, when you're driving home and you look in the rear view and you're like, holy crap, dude, I worked my ass off. I saved for so long and I got the thing I've always wanted. That sense of accomplishment, that sense of unboxing your first Xbox, or that sense of unboxing your first, Nintendo Switch 2, no matter what it is, or playing your very first like Halo game or your very first God of War game and beating it. It's that sense of accomplishment of like, holy crap, this is why I like this brand so much. The experience of like getting it. And I think it's a really good reason why brand loyalty is good for consumers. Now, to wrap everything up in a nice little full circle moment, back to the very first question, is brand loyalty good or bad? In some cases, it can be very bad. When you're very, very devoted to one brand and you're getting yourself into debt and all this other crap for like a brand that's not particularly good at all. For most average people in this world that are sensible and like know how to use their money and are smart with like their money and like their choices, I think the question is, brand loyalty is a good thing. I really do. I think there's a lot of good things about having like a brand kind of attached to you in some kind of way that like helps you connect to a lot of people that you would have connected with before. Like community, the accomplishment, the feeling of meeting someone new for the very first time and just being able to talk about stuff you guys enjoy together. There's a lot more positives than there is negatives about brand loyalty. A lot of people push underneath the rug and shame people for. I know a lot of people that are kind of scared to say that they're kind of like, that they like a certain brand because they don't know how people are going to act or how people are going to treat them for saying that they like a certain brand that other people might not like. That's also a good thing. Discussions, debates, arguments online, as much as it can be destructive sometimes, I think it's a good thing that we could all pass back and forth ideas. I think it's a good thing that a lot of us have something we could attach to that will help us navigate through this crazy life that we all live, that will help us kind of bring us down and let us have some joy in this life. Something you like, something you enjoy, helps you kind of forget some of your problems in the day, coming home and playing your Xbox or your PlayStation helps you forget about some of the problems and like the hardship at your job. Well, if you disagree with my take, then go ahead and leave a comment down below. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. Spinoff is out of here. Peace.